Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. It's Funmi, the principal attorney speaking. Today's review, we're going to be looking at some AI terms. And essentially what I want to make aware to my viewers is that there are privacy implications when using artificial intelligence. I am yet to see an AI tool, system, or model that does not have privacy implications, which is why we're reviewing it on our channel, because at the Data Privacy Lawyer, we provide advisory to businesses on how to understand data protection laws as it applies to your specific business. Now, I love that we've been presented with this cookie banner, right? Because we are on the Tencent cloud website. We're not going to go into cookies. If you want to see any reviews that I've done on cookie notices, take a look at the channel. I have lots, but we're going to reject all the optional ones. I love that every single button is the same color. That's really important. I've talked before on this channel about dark patterns, and one of the ways that businesses get themselves in trouble with their cookie banner is that the color of their buttons are not the same, and that could be interpreted to influence how a business manipulates its users into selecting a specific option. Now, we're not going to go too much into cookies, but I love that we've been presented with one. Okay, that's excellent. This is wonderful. Wow. I am very excited because already we can see that they take privacy seriously in some capacity. Okay. AI service terms. This was last updated October 20th, 2025. So this was 2 months ago. That's excellent. Now, the reason why I really want to continue looking at AI service terms is because there are implications. We can see all these documents, right? Wow, this is excellent. Each of these documents that you can see here, there is an overlap in terms of what is being portrayed to a consumer that is drafted by Privacy Counsel. There's a data processing and security agreement. This is an agreement that's generally put in place when it comes to having processors or third parties process personal data on behalf of your business. We can see that they have customer security assessment policy and guidelines. There's AI service terms. There's a privacy notice. There's terms of service, which we're looking at right now. And they have lots of different privacy documentation that there is generally going to be an overlap. We're not going to look at that in this video. We're only going to look at the AI service terms. As we look through the AI service terms, I will show you where I anticipate that there are overlaps in some of these documents that are on the left-hand side. I think it's wonderful that this business has decided to put all of its legal documentation for public display because they have transparency obligations. I don't know in which geographies they operate. I presume because they have a .com URL that they at least operate in the United States. But outside of that, I have no clue. And each of these service terms are applicable to where the service is provided. And we've talked about severally on this channel how your obligations as a business are not independent on where you are headquartered. They are dependent on where your services are offered. So if your service is offered in China, you need to be looking at privacy legislation in China because there are implications based on whether you meet the threshold of PIPL, which is the data protection law in China. Okay, let's get into the terms. This applies to your use of AI-powered features, functionalities, tools, or services. I am yet to see any of these that don't have privacy implications. So it's really important for your business, if you are going to be offering AI tools or services, you need to take a look and see what your obligations might be under the data protection laws, because it may be that your privacy notice doesn't yet display what your practices are in this arena. And AI is relatively a newer feature in the United States. Some organizations have been using it for a very long time, but definitely in the last year, there has been a lot more emphasis by organizations to use artificial intelligence in some capacity. Okay, let's talk about this. I just saw this. It caught my eye. For the purpose of these AI terms, the following apply. AI output, user input, right? This is crucial. And I just talked about this above. I am very excited about this review. If you want me to do a full review of this AI terms, leave a comment below and I definitely will, because I think I'm going to come back to this one because I really like the structure already. I really love the use of the terms and policies on the left-hand side here. And I love the definitions because many consumers that are reading this on the site, right? I'm a privacy lawyer, so I draft these for a living. However, many consumers that come on TencentCloud.com, they don't know what AI output constitutes. They don't know what user input constitutes. If your business is using artificial intelligence and your consumers are baby monitor, they don't know what any of these terms mean. You're educating them because you want to show that you're being transparent about what it is that you're doing. So having definitions is very, very important, particularly when it comes to AI, because the AI output that's being utilized by this organization may be different than the AI output that you're using for your artificial intelligence. That's really important, right? Okay, let's talk about user input because I love this one. User input means any data, information, you can see my favorite word, including personal information, right? Because I just talked about this. Essentially, personal information is utilized in every AI. There's so much implications for the advisory I provide to my clients when it comes to them introducing artificial intelligence in any capacity, okay? Let's go down. Tencent Cloud may use user input and AI output to train AI models. This is very important. This is very, very important. Now, the reason we're seeing this in the AI terms is because training is very important for businesses when they're trying to improve their AI model. Look at ChatGPT, for example, right? The ChatGPT that I used in 2024 is not the ChatGPT that's being provided in 2025. That is as a result of them continually training ChatGPT. What Tencent Cloud is displaying to you as a consumer, right, is that the data that you're inputting, which they've provided a definition above, what they're saying is they're using your personal information to train their AI model. Now, they're being transparent about it. Depending on the geography where Tencent Cloud is providing you the functionality, will also influence additional obligations they have outside of this notice, right? Which is why if you are using AI and you're not sure what you need to display to your consumers, you should definitely consider having a privacy counsel review it for you to ensure you're meeting your obligations, because the consequences of not meeting those obligations is having a regulator investigate you, asking for documentation that you don't have or is not updated based on your current practices. Okay, let's go back to this. Tencent model may use user input and AI output to train the models unless you indicate your objection and opt out of model training in the relevant AI service. Now, my interpretation of what this means is before you use any type of AI service, you're going to be presented with some type of insight. It may be a pop-up, it may be a banner like what we saw for the cookie banner, but essentially they're letting you know that they will use your personal data to train their AI model unless you indicate an objection. Now, let's talk for a minute about consent. Consent under the data protection law has specific factors that must be met. 1, it must be unambiguous. 2, it must be freely given. 3, you have to have the opportunity to withdraw as easily as you provided your consent, right? So this language has a lot of implications from a data protection standpoint. And it's really important for you to understand what it is that you're writing when you present a notice to your consumers. Because what they're saying is you do have the opportunity to object. Now, whether or not that's being reflected in your use of the AI service is something that Tencent Cloud needs to make sure that they're adhering to. Sharing with third parties. I've talked a lot about third parties on my channel. There is always an inherent risk with sharing personal data with a third party. Let's read the provision and then I will go into my explanation. And this is the last provision we'll read. If you like my review of Tencent Cloud and you want me to do every provision, leave a comment below. So you acknowledge and agree that Tencent Cloud may share user input and AI output with its service providers, affiliates, and authorized third parties when necessary to provide the AI services or to comply with the law. Okay, this is very interesting, right? I'll tell you why this is interesting. Essentially, they're giving you insight into the fact that your personal data might be shared with the service providers, affiliates, and authorized third parties. Now, on the back end, something that consumers don't see is that they're generally contractual obligations, and I love that they've used the word that I repeat so much in these reviews. Contractually, in order for Tencent Cloud to still meet its own obligations, because Tencent Cloud is different to its service provider, right? But every entity has obligations under data protection law. Tencent Cloud has its own obligations as a controller. It needs to make sure it has good technical and organizational measures. It needs to make sure it's transparent. Those obligations may not be of importance to a service provider. And the way that you make those obligations important to a service provider is you put it in writing, in a contract, right? And if you're looking for those contract terms to be drafted, take a look at my description below. I'd love to work with you. This is the last provision we're going to look at for this review. I wanted to do this on the channel because I think it's important to start really talking about artificial intelligence and how it implicates privacy for your business. So if you enjoyed this review, subscribe and I will see you in another video.